Grief teaches you to live anyway, to live without the thing you want most in the world, to forego ahead and find another path, to let go of all your preconceived ideas, abandoning the life you once imagined, recrafting your hopes and dreams. Today's video is more than anything, it's a reflection and an acknowledgement, a validation of what a lot of us are going through. So it dawned on me that 2020 has been and continues to be a year of collective grief. This topic is really important to me because about a year ago, I don't want to get emotional today, but I had to deal with grief that I never anticipated I was going to have to deal with. And it was crippling. And the thing about grief is it can be very isolating. When you as an individual or you as a family lose somebody or have to deal with changing to a very stark and challenging new normal, it is extraordinarily challenging. And that's what I was feeling a year ago. And it's taken a lot of healing. I've definitely been going to therapy, leaning on my loved ones, and just being open and vulnerable. When 2020 came, I think a lot of us were like, this is going to be a new year. It's a blank slate. It's a new beginning, everything. And 2020 has absolutely taken us for a ride, wouldn't you say? One of the worst, scariest, and most unpredictable rides ever known to man. Literally 2 months ago, because it's literally only a couple months into the year now, but towards the end of January, the world really witnessed a very shocking sudden death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter. And even for those of us who didn't necessarily grow up as the biggest fans of Kobe or basketball fans at all, it was still a very jarring thing to watch because I think we're just not used to seeing that type of high profile loss. And I think we're also not all used to seeing sudden death. And because the loss that I had been dealing with a year ago was sudden, and there's a very unique type of grieving that happens with sudden death, I think a lot of people were completely and totally destabilized by it. That really re-triggered a lot of the grief that I had been healing from a year ago. And then to add to it, I had another loss that I had to deal with in my life. You guys, it is like, I feel like I don't want to go into that dark space right now because it can be really hard to go there, but loss is challenging. When I was dealing with all of the re-triggering that happened for me when Kobe died, and then the further loss that I experienced soon after that, I went right into working in the ICU. As a healthcare provider, it is so difficult because a lot of times we'll be dealing with our own challenges in our own life and then have to go and give and keep giving and keep giving. And that can be exhausting. And without that being acknowledged and being mitigated, it often leads to burnout. Totally understandably leads to burnout because we feel like we are literally constantly pouring, but we're not receiving. And so it's challenging, and I think that is one of the things that I've been working on most intently with my own therapist, with my loved ones, in my own personal meditations, in my own personal reflections. I've been very intentional about acknowledging that I am definitely here in service of humanity. I'm definitely here as a vessel in a lot of ways, but I also have to acknowledge that I myself am a person. What was interesting about then the loss of Kobe Bryant and the other 8 individuals on that helicopter was that was also the first time I had ever experienced something where it was like a very collective grieving. Because my grief had been so isolating the year before, it was strangely comforting, but it was still re-triggering and painful. I'm still trying to work through what all of that means. But now then with this coronavirus, this is in my estimation, another extension of this communal, collective grief. I read this stunning article. I'm going to link it below, but I just want to read a couple of excerpts from it because she talks about how we are allowed to feel a grief for our sense of normalcy. We have to honor our own complexity. It's common for people to devalue their own problems when they know others are facing greater ones. But there will always be someone with problems far worse than yours. It is simply the way of the world. It does not take away from the pain you are feeling, nor the anger, the fear, or anxiety. To disregard your own struggles because others are suffering more is also seeing only one side of the coin. Have perspective, yes, but allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to feel sad the wedding you've spent years dreaming and planning is suddenly postponed. Of course you're disappointed that your classes are suddenly online and your graduation is canceled. Heartbroken that your music tour is impossible and absolutely devastated you can't mourn the death of your grandfather with a funeral. Acknowledging those things in a world crisis isn't selfish, it's necessary. If we take it down another level, it's also okay to be pissed that you're out of coffee and you can't just pop to the store to buy more, or that you could really use a damn haircut, or that you just miss happy hour and trivia at your favorite pub. These things may seem small, especially compared to the fact that thousands of people are dying around the world and millions are at risk. Our health systems are overwhelmed, the stock market is collapsing, people are losing jobs, can't pay rent, and are in truly dire straits. Those things are all happening, and of course they are worse. But loss is loss. You've lost crucial parts of your life that you were used to, and the best thing we can do for the health of ourselves and our society is to mourn those losses without judgment while maintaining perspective. I love what this author did with the article because she talks about how she had a really painful loss of her own brother and how grief-stricken she was. She writes, "Grief teaches you to live anyway. To live without the thing you want most in the world, to forego ahead and find another path. To let go of all your preconceived ideas, abandoning the life you once imagined, recrafting your hopes and dreams." I think her message is so powerful. Obviously, there's different levels of grief, and she acknowledges that. But a lot of us are in a state of mourning. Sometimes we have to allow ourselves to grieve, sit in our grief, and then remember that we have to find a way to live anyway. Unless we do that, especially if we're in a really demanding field like being a physician, some of you may be teachers, some of you may be social workers. There's so many careers and things that call for us to give so much of ourselves. We have to make sure that we are taking care of our own selves too. It is critical. This is kind of just a message to say, one, I see us. I see that we are all struggling with different things on different levels. Loss is loss, and finding a way to live despite it, live because of it, is a challenge that we're all navigating. I'm particularly interested if any of you guys have had to deal with grief and deal with loss, either in the context of all of this distancing and everything that we're doing right now, or because of loss in your personal life or whatever it may be. What are ways that you were able to find to live anyway? I'm always looking for new ideas, and so I would love to hear from you guys. Definitely please feel encouraged, feel welcome to subscribe, join our community. I love making content like this and connecting with you guys, and let me know what types of content you guys want to discuss, and we'll go from there. I love you guys all so much, and goodbye.